The reading and viewing for this week are designed to help us think a little bit about how we conceptualize who English learners are, and really to dig into that label itself, English learner, how we refer to students who are learning English as a new language. And as you'll see in the first article, which is a piece by Ramon Antonio Martinez, who's a professor at Stanford University, we have a lot of different names for talking about students who are learning English at school. For a long time, the term that was commonly used in federal policy and in schools was limited English proficient, or LEP. And thankfully, we have largely moved away from that term as it was very deficit oriented, really focusing on what students lack, their limited English proficiency, rather than what they bring to the classroom. And now a commonly used term to refer to students who are learning English as a new language is EL, or L in some places, which refers to or stands for English learner. And an English learner, as federally defined, is a student who is school-aged and who has not yet developed the English language proficiency needed to engage in grade level academic content. So a student who is still acquiring English at school. And of course, that definition, or that term, I should say, is better than limited English proficient, but there have been moves in many states and really pushes from the scholarly community as well to change the way that we're thinking about these students by rethinking some of the terms that we use to describe them. So a term that I often use, which comes from the work at the City University of New York, is emergent bilingual, which recognizes that students who are learning English at school are in the process of becoming bilingual because they bring their home language into the classroom. They don't leave all of that outside the classroom as they're also learning English. So emergent bilingual, or EB, is one term that some folks use. You'll see that Ramon Antonio Martinez talks about terms like emergent bi/multilingual student, which recognizes that students are not just becoming bilingual, but they also might be becoming multilingual. And sometimes students are referred to just as bi/multilingual learners. In the state of Rhode Island, there has been a move away from using English learner, as some of you know, to use multilingual learner, or MLL, which again is a more inclusive term. I came to Rhode Island from the state of Colorado. In Colorado, we were using the term culturally and linguistically diverse learner to refer to any student who was culturally and linguistically diverse, with English learner as a subgroup of students within that broader label. So as you can see, it's a bit of an alphabet soup when it comes to how we refer to students who are acquiring a new language or learning English as a new language at school. And as we continue in this course, I encourage you to try to use more inclusive terms when you are talking about English learners. And as I said, I myself often use emergent bilingual or emergent multilingual. Now that I'm based in Rhode Island, I'm also using multilingual learner more often. And occasionally we'll use English learner, especially if I'm referring to kind of federal policy or statewide identification of students who are learning English as a new language. But the goal for this portion of the week is really to get you thinking more deeply about the terms that we use and why they matter, how these terms can shape the way that we think about our students. Do we see students as limited English proficient, as lacking in English, and that is prohibiting them from accessing content? Or do we see them as multilingual students who come into our classroom with a wealth of knowledge from their home language, both linguistic knowledge and content knowledge in their home language, that we as educators need to think about bridging and accessing and providing opportunities to leverage in the classroom. So the reading will help unpack a little bit of that and some other issues connected to multilingual learner education. And then the TED Talk that you'll be viewing is one of my favorite TED Talks. It's one called The Danger of a Single Story by Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And she talks about the problem with just having a single story of someone or of a group of people. And so I want you to keep that lens in mind as we think about the single stories that we might hold about multilingual learners, about English learners, about students who are in our classroom who are still acquiring grade level proficiency in English. And what are the stories that we hold about those students, and how can we embrace more asset-oriented understandings of who our students are and the resources that they bring into our classrooms. So that is just a little bit of overview of what you'll be getting into in the readings, and to get you to start thinking about the way that we think about our multilingual learners, or about multilingual students in general, and how we can move towards more asset-oriented understandings. Enjoy.